So Sheryl Swoopes says that Caitlin Clark is quote-unquote not dominating. So with this graph, and I want you to look at the headline, I am only going with WNBA records. I am not going with any of the rookie records. She is now the single-season assist leader all-time in the WNBA. She is #1 in the WNBA with 8.4 assists. She also has the single-game all-time WNBA record with 19 versus Dallas, where she also had 24 points because, oh, not to mention, she averages 19.5 points per game, too. You combine that with her assists, that's the most points created per game at 38 points per game than anybody ever in WNBA history. Matter of fact, Caitlin Clark is the only one to be top 10 in points per game the same time she was #1 in the league in assists. Not rookies, everybody ever in the WNBA. She's the only WNBA player ever to have 700 points and 300 assists in a season. She already, as a rookie in just one season, has more triple-doubles and more 25-point, 10-assist game than 99.6 of players in their WNBA careers. And to even make this more fun, Sheryl Swoopes, my favorite stat, I put this one in blue. If you put her rookie stats against the 3 years of your MVP stats, the years that you were voted the most valuable player, Caitlin Clark averages more points than you, she averages more assists than you, and she averages more rebounds than you during your MVP seasons. 19.5 to 19.2, she averages more rebounds than you, and she crushes you in assists, 8.4 assists to 3.9. So if Caitlin is not dominating, even though she beats you in every single statistical category involved in your MVP years, then what were you doing? Needs to let it go. Sheryl Swoopes. Oh my God, Sheryl, I am really going to go ahead. I'm going to try to understand where you're coming from, but we're going to play once again what you said in Jesus H. Christ, Sheryl Swoopes, and her talkie-talkie about Caitlin Clark. She keeps hating on Caitlin. This is the last time I'm bringing Sheryl Swoopes up on this topic, and I'm going to move on to bigger and better things, which are the WNBA playoffs. But the question for me with Sheryl, and, you know, I thought about it, like, why is it worth it right now to her to honestly be trashing her legacy and her credibility? Because that's the level it's gotten to now with Sheryl Swoopes outside of a few people around her. I mean, the internet, it doesn't matter race, age, whatever. It's kind of in unison going like, boy, Sheryl, I mean, are you still trying? Like, what are you doing here? Like, just, it's okay. You didn't think she'd be that good. She ended up being pretty good. You know, just say, hey, good for her and keep it pushing. Sheryl does not want to do that. Sheryl wants to dig her heels in. Sheryl wants to get harder and just stronger in her stance, no matter how many people around her are screaming the otherwise, like, bruh, it's all right. Just go ahead and we'll, you know, forgive you and call it a day. And so put this first picture up because this is what I want to talk about with Sheryl. You know, first of all, I will say this, and this is something not just to Sheryl, but other people who hire analysts that are former players and everything else. This is once again proof that experience alone does not always make you a good analyst. I've said this for a while because Sheryl Swoopes, by all, you know, intents and purposes, is a great all-time basketball player. I mean, she's the first WNBA player signed in history. I don't think a lot of people know that. She's a 3-time MVP. She was voted top 15 all-time a few years ago and is an NCAA champion, a WNBA champion, and a damn gold medalist. Sheryl Swoopes, one of the best players to ever play the game, but she is not doing very good in her analyst job right now. And like I said, it doesn't always mean you're going to be a great, you know, expert just because you're a former player. In the same way, just having a vagina doesn't necessarily make you a gynecologist. But I will move on to the bigger point of what, like it says right there, this to me with Sheryl and Caitlin specifically is just, it's more than just basketball. When it comes to Sheryl Swoopes and her opinions and her continued digging in her heels on Caitlin Clark, this is more than just basketball. This problem is deeper than just basketball. And it's not even just race. I think a lot of people simplify it there with Sheryl Swoopes and say, oh, it's just a race thing. I've seen her praise other white girls, so I'm not going to sit here and just say it's exactly that. It's part of it, but it's not the whole picture. So to me, it's not just the race. It's also the fact of who Caitlin fans represent. And that's the big problem with Sheryl Swoopes, whether she'll admit it to herself or not. It's not just that they are white fans that Caitlin has, but it's who they represent. First of all, they're new, and she doesn't like the brand new fan. The perception for her is that all these brand new fans, you don't know the history, you don't give them the respect, you especially don't give her respect, and she resents you for that a little bit, like a lot of WNBA players are who asked for new fans, but then the new fan showed up, didn't know shit about anything but Caitlin, then they got upset about that. That's part one. But part two, and the more important part, is who the fans of Caitlin Clark represent to her and how they are simply on the other side of the aisle that she does not agree with. And this is, by the way, not fair to Caitlin. Caitlin Clark, just so in case people missed it, she just recently liked the Taylor Swift endorsing Harris tweet. So I don't think Caitlin Clark deserves to be in this category or be treated this way, but she is representative of a fan base, and this goes all the way back to Iowa LSU when it was divided right down the line.
Black people too happy, white people too mad.
And it was both sides, Angel and Caitlin, and everybody on the Angel side didn't like the Caitlin side. Everybody on the Caitlin side, right or wrong, was probably, if there was going to be the MAGA or, red state, loving side of the fan base, it was going to be the Caitlin side.
You're fired.
I mean, it's just the fact of what it is. It goes all the way back to Iowa LSU, and I mean, she comes from Iowa, which, by the way, is strongly red. She now plays in Indiana, and they haven't voted a Democrat for president since 1964. This is something for a girl that's on the Team Angel side and has said as much that I'm on the Team Angel side, who represents Baltimore, New Orleans, Chicago. This goes deeper than just the game, and she is not by any, means the only one who's done this. I've had family, I've had friends, I've had acquaintances when on both sides of the extreme here, neither one, when you get to those sides and that's the polar opposite, they don't want to give the other side credit for a goddamn thing. I mean, you could tell them like, hey, a person from the other side saved a baby from a burning building, and the first thing they'll go is like, yeah, well, did they start the fire? I mean, do we know for sure? Where were they at the time? You know what I mean? Like, no matter what they do, they're going to go ahead and say, nope, I can't give credit to that other side. That is where Sheryl Swoopes is at here. You could save a baby from a burning building. She doesn't care. Caitlin score 100 points. She doesn't care. And it's the only fair explanation to Sheryl, because the alternative would just be sad that either A, she doesn't know the game, or B, she's just a hater. I don't even know if she knows it herself. I don't know if she's, lying to us or herself in this situation, but there's definitely something more personal. It is deeper than just basketball when it comes to Sheryl Swoopes and her opinion on Caitlin Clark, and it's not even completely your fault. I kind of even understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand. So what am I talking about? Okay, she already had done her, she keeps going on Gilbert Arenas' podcast and talkie. So this is the latest one she did. We'll go ahead and play this now in case you missed it. She was talking about Caitlin. A, doesn't think she's dominating, and B, thinks the Fever secretly want to get off her team.
Her stats are today, what? 20 points, 8.4 assists, 6 rebounds.
That's crazy.
But 5
crazy.
5.6
those are hell of a number.
Those are hell of a numbers.
But to me, that's not dominating.
Yeah, it's only not dominating because she's a rookie.
Now,
so there's a lot of other shit going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be. You have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be this year.
Now listen,
there's a lot of shit going. What kind of things do you say?
I'm not in the locker room.
Okay. But just,
I'm talking about more social media.
Okay.
At the beginning of the year, you have a player like an Aaliyah Boston, who was Rookie of the Year last year, #1 draft pick, a hell of a player. But because things weren't going the way everybody thought they should, then you got social media coming out calling her everything but a child of God. Made the kid delete her social media. And now that they're winning and she's playing better, oh my God, we love you, Aaliyah.
Yeah.
But my thing is this. So what happens when Aaliyah ain't playing well again?
It's back to
you know what I mean? And so as a player,
seriously, but I mean, just,
let's
get to both these points here.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
Let's start with that last part she did there, and let's go ahead and get into it. If you can go ahead and hit this for me here, Corey, let's get to the next picture. The idea that, the teammates don't want to be there, that all this attention, and if they don't play well, they get all of this. Let me just go ahead and quote the Jerry Maguire kid here. If you don't want to be in the Indiana Fever right now, just go ahead and go, man. Bye. See ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Let me explain just how bad of a take that is. And by the way, it's complete bullshit because she admitted herself, I have not talked to an Indiana Fever player. I have no, actual behind the scenes on this. And they also mentioned, too, almost everybody that gets quoted in the Indiana Fever says, dude, we have great chemistry. We're all getting along. We're having a lot of fun. Everybody seems to like each other, and you see it on the court. But let's just go with her theory that some of the players secretly want to leave the Indiana Fever. Again, to quote the Jerry Maguire kid, just go ahead and go, man. I don't know what else to tell you. You're in your first playoffs. You're winning games finally. Your first playoffs for the Indiana Fever in the last 8 years. You now have more wins than your 2020 through 2022 seasons combined. You're 10-4 since the All-Star break. You're one of the hottest teams in the league going into the playoffs, so you're winning games. But not to mention, people are there finally. Their attendance in Indiana went from an average of 4,000 people last year to a record-setting 17,000. The Indiana Fever get more people per game than the New York Liberty or the Las Vegas Aces, the two best teams with the two biggest cities and the two biggest markets, they outdo them by 5,000. Their ticket sales are up 246%. 38 of their 40 games were nationally televised this year. And oh, by the way, as you can see by the thing up there, the Fever had 19 games this year of their 38 that were nationally televised have 1 million plus viewers or more. The entire rest of the WNBA had 2. They barely broke 1 million, and that's only because they were primetime games on ABC and CBS. The Indiana Fever consistently outdo the rest of the WNBA, even primetime ABC, on the goddamn Ion Network. They, by the way, last year, too, they did not break a single million-viewer game the entire season of 2023. Indiana Fever have now done it 19 times of their 38 nationally televised games, not to mention their 800 million social media views from April to July are more than any other team than in the NBA, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, or National Football League. They get more social media views, they get more attendance, they get more television ratings, they get more endorsements. They're winning more games than they have in 5 years. If you're somehow secretly on the Indiana Fever bitching and you want to score 2 more points per game and average 5 more minutes on the Washington Mystics somewhere, have at it and don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. If there is anyone who actually wants to leave the Indiana Fever, God bless you. Go ahead, keep it pushing, enjoy the rest of your life. I guarantee you there's a people lined up that are ready to go play with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. But I digress because, again, I think all that's bullshit. Everybody that they've asked about the Indiana Fever on the roster and everything we see shows are actually getting along quite well. And Sheryl said her damn self, you know, I really don't have any actual inside information. I'm just talking shit as I usually do. But let's get to the bigger one, and this is the bigger picture here. And this one was really bad. The idea when they tried to give her the stats, Corey hit this for me, that Caitlin ain't dominating. This one, I'm going to really go ahead and have to go ahead and give you my opinion on this.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
So Sheryl Swoopes says that Caitlin Clark is quote-unquote not dominating. So with this graph, and I want you to look at the headline, I am only going with WNBA records. I am not going with any of the rookie records, a lot of which she broke. These are all WNBA all-time records here. As we've learned now, Caitlin is a great passer. She is now the single-season assist leader all-time in the WNBA. She is number 1 in the WNBA with 8.4 assists. She also has the single-game all-time WNBA record with 19 versus Dallas, where she also had 24 points because, oh, not to mention, she averages 19.5 points per game, too. You combine that with her assists, that's the most points created per game at 38 points per game than anybody ever in WNBA history. Matter of fact, Caitlin Clark is the only one to be top 10 in points per game the same time she was number 1 in the league in assists. Not rookies, everybody ever in the WNBA. She's the only WNBA player ever to have 700 points and 300 assists in a season. She already, as a rookie in just one season, has more triple-doubles and more 25-point, 10-assist game than 99.6 of players in their WNBA careers. I'm going to repeat that one again. In 1 year, she has almost more triple-doubles and more 25-point, 10-assist games than the rest of WNBA players' careers to the tune of 99.6% of them. And to even make this more fun, Sheryl Swoopes, my favorite stat, I put this one in blue. If you put her rookie stats against the 3 years of your MVP stats, the years that you were voted the most valuable player, Caitlin Clark averages more points than you, she averages more assists than you, and she averages more rebounds than you during your MVP seasons. 19.5 to 19.2, she averages more rebounds than you, and she crushes you in assists, 8.4 assists to 3.9. So if Caitlin is not dominating, even though she beats you in every single statistical category involved in your MVP years, then what were you doing? If she's not dominating your 3 most valuable player award years, what were you doing, Sheryl Swoopes? This is why, again, I get why it's personal, and I get why you're trying to just say, hey, I don't give a damn about numbers. I've dug my heels in. This is bigger than basketball to me, but this is why, if you want to call yourself an analyst, you're going to have to go ahead and crack open a stat book and go, you know, maybe I need to shut up. Maybe I need to have an informed opinion before I say stupid things like everybody in the Indiana Fever secretly wants to leave and everybody needs to calm down like Caitlin ain't dominating. Look at those stats. She beats your MVP here. So I really don't want to hear it anymore, Sheryl Swoopes. But again, I understand. I understand where this is coming from. I think you need to seek some counseling or therapy about it, or at least have a conversation with a real friend who can keep it honest and keep it a buck with you and be like, hey, man, this is just either keep her name out your mouth like you have a couple times, or if you do, just, you know, it sucks. I know her fan base is going to be like, nah, 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 nah. Not much different than when Angel went, no. You know what I mean? Everyone's going to be a little immature about it, but it's time for you to either shut up or backtrack and go, yeah, you know what? She's pretty damn good. She's kind of once-in-a-generation type talent, and maybe I need to give her a credit, even though I can't stand, a lot of people that represent her as a fan base. I have the same thing. LeBron James, same thing. I can't stand half of LeBron's fans. They are some of the most ignorant dipsticks when it comes to numbers and stats, and they'll just completely go off emotion and drive me absolutely insane. But at some point, I have to go, hey, LeBron's top 5. He's probably 2. LeBron's pretty good. At some point, I had to just, hold it in and go, you know what? Sometimes the sports world doesn't go the way you want to go. This time it didn't go the way you want to go. That's my only solution. Either keep her name out your mouth or just get honest or get some therapy. All right, moving on.